Welcome, everybody, to the Kirby 64 100% RNG manipulation tutorial for the 100% speedrun. Main reason I'm making this video, like doing this commentary, is because as of right now, there's not really any publicly available, super comprehensive or easy to understand video or guide on how to do this. So I figured I would just get it done once and for all, hopefully make it a lot less intimidating than it is right now, because it is pretty scary at first glance. But I'm going to try to make it as easy to understand as possible so that people can potentially try it out themselves. One thing I do want to clarify before we get into it is that I did not find this manip. It was found by a runner named DarkRiolu27 in about late summer 2020, over the course of about 3 months. Is what he mentioned. And, even after he found this manip and put together the route, he continued to look into finding safer and better strats for various parts of the run. Even after being done with running the game, I don't think he's run in about a year and a couple months, I think. So big thank you to Riolu for continuing to work on the game. And also, this will be re-uploaded to YouTube with timestamps and extra pieces of info in the bar below me if there's ever a part in the run that I have to add something. So look forward to that for a little bit more detail. And also, I do plan on writing up a guide as well, or at least cleaning up the notes that I have for myself, so that along with this video, there can be a written guide that you can read through. To go through it. And also, there will be any corrections put on the video wherever need be if I mess something up or miss something. So look forward to that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Here is a huge list. Might not be complete exactly, but this is pretty much everything that's known to advance RNG. First of all, basically standing still after doing any action whatsoever. For standing still for about half a second after jumping, ducking, sliding, using an ability, walking or running, taking damage and getting knocked back, or climbing through a platform. Pretty much any action that you take, if you stand still for about half a second afterwards, it will advance RNG by 1. This does not happen, however, if Kirby is at 1 HP, because if he's low on health, he'll do the animation where he's sort of slouched over and hurting, so that will prevent RNG from advancing. And it will also not advance if after that action Kirby goes into the teetering animation, like if he's on the edge of a platform or something. So in those two cases, RNG will not advance after you do an action. Other things that will advance RNG include throwing a power or an object either up or in front of you. Spitting does not advance RNG. Idle animation, so if you stand still for a very long time and Kirby does something like kick the ground, that will advance RNG. Sparkies, the electric or the spark enemy, when they jump in any direction or any height or wherever, that will advance RNG once. When they do the spark attack, that will advance RNG twice. Boss attacks, so anytime you're in a boss fight and they do an attack, that will advance RNG once in itself. The dandelions, just being loaded onto the screen, advance RNG by once. The butterflies will advance RNG only if they are disturbed, if they start flying. The propellers, the blue ice enemies, will advance RNG once if they start chasing you, and they will only start chasing you if you have a power. According to the notes I'm reading, I haven't actually confirmed that myself, but I trust them. Collecting the card at the picnic at the end of a level advances RNG by a lot. That will be important for one level in the run. You actually do have to collect the card at the end of it, and that will be pointed out whenever we get there. The bow enemies, like the circular black enemies that kind of just float, they advance RNG just by existing constantly. The bonehead enemies, like the flying skull enemies, when they descend from their flight, that will advance RNG. Entering a level advances RNG, but it will not advance RNG if you're at 1 health. Entering the Acro fight advances RNG by 2. When a Spark Eye enemy, not Sparky, Spark Eye, the diamond-shaped enemy that shoots like a little beam in one direction, will advance RNG when it runs into a wall, but not a floor or a ceiling. The glom enemies, the frogs that come out of the walls, when they blink, that will advance RNG. There's a lot here, but it'll all be written down, so don't get overwhelmed. The Zeus enemies, the flying thunder cloud enemies, when they throw lightning bolts, advance RNG. Each shot of the volcano advances RNG by 2, but sometimes 3, and it's not exactly known when it advances it by 3. And this is only important for one part of the run, so it's not too big of a matter to worry about, and I'll point that out when we get there. Hitting the ground in a Waddle Dee section acts the same as if you did an action and stood still for half a second, like if you're in the river ride, or if you're on the sled or the mine cart with Waddle Dee, and you stay on the ground for a little bit too long, like half a second or so, that will advance RNG by 1. Getting into the vehicles advances it by 1 as well. Stone Cutter does not advance RNG if you get knocked back immediately. Both types of torpedo enemies, so the enemies that shoot across the screen in the water, mainly at the start of 3-4, advance RNG about every third of a second or so. The falling rocks in 3-4 in the second room and the rocks in the last room advance RNG. When enemies spawn in the Tick mini-boss room in 3-1, they advance RNG twice. That will actually be something I'll point out when we get there as well. Let's see. The 4-2 mini-boss, so when the little droplet enemies spawn on screen, they advance RNG. The falling rocks at the start of 4-4. And let me tell you, 4-4 is a fun level, but we'll see why it's so fun when we get there. When the Burnus or Phrygus enemies, so either the Firebirds or the Icebirds, drop rocks, they advance RNG once. Mopu enemies, I believe those are the ones that shoot out of the lava. They advance RNG. The Flora enemies, which are the flowers that sort of spin and float down slowly, constantly advance RNG just by falling. Each time the floor drops in the HR fight, advances RNG once. Cutter in Miracle Matter advances RNG. Bomb in Miracle Matter advances RNG when the bubbles split apart. Each shot of Spark during Miracle Matter advances RNG. Each of 0-2's eye shots advance RNG multiple times. And each of 0-2's toxic gas shots advance RNG once. So that is a huge list of known factors that advance RNG. It's not necessarily complete, so just keep that in mind. Those are the main things. And also, when going through all these levels, I will be pointing out pretty much every instance where RNG advances or changes in any way. So don't worry about memorizing all of that. All right, so now that that big list is out of the way, let's actually get into the run. So, when starting the run, you need to be on the RNG hex value 0x33. Now, how do we get to that value? First of all, and a side note before I get into the full run, if you do plan on doing a run with the manip and submitting it to the leaderboards, you do have to include in your submission all of the setup that you do before getting into the run. So just keep that in mind if you do plan on submitting something. In the beginning here, in order to get on the right value, what you have to do is mash as quickly as you can the start and the A button to get past the N64 screen and this game logo screen, because they both rapidly advance RNG just as you sit on those screens longer. So you got to mash as quickly as you can through these screens, and if you do that, then you should be able to get into a run no matter what, and I'll show you how in a sec. So in order to find what value you're starting on, you got to go into the mini game selection screen. Now, to be on 0x33, which is the correct value, the characters in the second, third, and fourth slots have to be Kirby, Waddle Dee, Kirby. That will be 0x33. If you're on 0x32, so I think, let's see what I got for this run, I don't remember. Okay, so this is actually good. If you're one behind, so if you're on 0x32, it's Kirby, Kirby, Waddle Dee. If you're two behind, it would be DDD, Kirby, Kirby. Now, if you're behind, how do you fix that? I think it was one of those things. You can do what I do right here. You can enter, if you have a file that's completed, the game, I don't think it has to be 100%, but the game just has to be beaten. But you can enter the boss battles. And just as I mentioned before, entering a level in itself advances RNG once. Entering boss battles does the same thing. So just by entering, you advance it once. So if you had Kirby, Kirby, Waddle Dee, you can just leave boss battles and start the file. You're good to go. If you had DDD, Kirby, Kirby, you got to enter and then duck or jump or inhale or something like that, and then stand still for half a second to advance it again. And then you can leave boss battles and get started with the run. 1-1 does not have too much going on in terms of the manip. The first thing is actually after the cabin for the mini boss fight. So we'll just listen to some commentary, if you can even hear it. But yeah, so I don't think there were any dandelions in this room, but in the room after the cabin, there's some dandelions I'll have to point out. Yeah, basically you handle mini boss normally. And then when you leave, right here, you have to run or walk to get out of the door frame. Otherwise, you're going to jump into the top of it. And then jump as high as you can, and then start doing single fire in order to avoid triggering this butterfly right here. The flutter enemy is what it's called. So that's your first main thing with this level. That dandelion, and that one. Just by spawning on screen, advance RNG once each. And then here, you gotta make sure you throw the firepower to advance RNG again. Like if you watch the videos about Zidane or... and then just play this out normally. And then, to know that you're on the right value going into this mini boss, this butterfly will do sort of a stretched out, like S pattern. So I'll step through it slowly. Hopefully that kind of demonstrates it. Not really. You just gotta trust me on this one. Sort of like it moves slowly to the right, basically. And if you're on the wrong value, it'll probably go up, or it'll go to the left. Like if it goes to the right in sort of a S shape, then pretty much good to go. Now for this Waddle Doo fight, the key things here are to basically just keep moving. Don't ever stand still, and also spit the power. So right there. That makes sense. You gotta spit the power for the final hit, so you don't advance RNG at all. And then the picnic will have this layout, if done properly. And this is gonna be the key way throughout the run that we keep track of what value we're on, or, you know, if we're getting through the levels correctly. These picnics will always be the same thing at the end of each level. Not this exact pattern, but they each have their own pattern that they will be if you've done the level correctly. So that is 1-1, not too complicated. 1-2, there was a dandelion right there, and another one, and a couple more coming up, like right there. Another level that's not super complicated. There is some counting you have to do during the Adeleine fight, and that depends on sort of how you handle this Sparky coming up here. So right here, this Sparky, if you can take it out before going into the tree, before it does the spark attack, then at the beginning of the Adeleine fight, I'll explain it later. So if it does do, just keep in mind that if it does do the spark attack, you will be 2 RNG values ahead of where you normally would be if you took it out before entering the tree like I just did there. And then again, with this Sparky, just take it out immediately, so it doesn't advance RNG anymore as you go up and out of the tree. This room, you don't have anything going on, really. And not really anything up through the mini-boss.
Dude, float, please.
Pretty much the next thing you gotta take care of is at the start of the Adeleine fight. So yeah, just do these normally. And then at the start of this fight, so right here, depending on if the Sparky did the spark attack before you entered the tree or not, if it didn't do the spark attack, you have to duck 8 times. You have to advance RNG 8 times. If it did do the spark attack before you entered the tree, you only have to do it 6 times. So here, advance it 8 times as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, after you take out each of the small enemies, you gotta make sure to stand still to advance it again between each of these. It's like right there, standing still. Again, after that one. Then after this one, you have to make sure you stand still long enough to also trigger the idle animation before attacking the Ice Dragon. And with the Ice Dragon, you get your first attack, and then you have to make sure to stand still after the first attack before doing the second attack. So right there, get the second attack, and then after the second attack, you have to start moving to the left, so you don't want to stand still after the second one. But another key thing to point out, after getting the third attack off, Adeleine can either bob her head up and down again before going behind the painting. If she does that, you have to duck 3 times after standing still after taking out the Ice Dragon. If she does not bob her head and goes immediately behind the painting like she did in this video, then you have to duck 4 times after standing still. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you do that correctly, this dark matter will stop right here. It won't move any further to the left. And stand still after dark matter, take out Adeleine, stand still, and then grab the crystal. So that, at first, might seem a little bit complicated. But again, or this might be the first time I'm saying this, but after a bunch of practice, it does get much easier. It's just a lot in the beginning. It's sort of overwhelming. You have to take each level individually and just practice them a lot to get it down. But if you've done everything correctly, picnic layout will look exactly like this. And by the way, yes, I am at a point where I have pretty much all the picnics memorized. I've been doing this quite a bit. 1-3. There's not... This is significantly less complicated than 1-2, than all of that counting and paying attention to everything. I promise. Basically, this level is carried out like normal. In fact, I'll speed it up a little bit. It's carried out like normal all the way up until right before the DDD mini-boss fight. One thing I guess to note here is that you want to throw away the fire there and spit the cutter there for the combo. So RNG will advance a total of 1 time there. Then here, pull out the power when going through that transition zone and spit it out to prevent advancing RNG. And then at the top of this room, when you combine for double fire, right here, slow it down again. You want to throw the power, so that advances RNG once. And then in the DDD fight, after the first phase, so you get the first 2 hits in, and then for the 3rd hit, wait for DDD to jump. He will jump straight up, and basically you hit him at the peak of the jump. So right there. And then after the first phase, you want to stand still to advance RNG once. And then take him out for the 2nd phase and keep moving to prevent advancing RNG anymore. And grab the crystal. And then the picnic layout will look like this, if done correctly. And next we got Wispy, and basically strat with Wispy, the main thing to keep in mind is that you just want to keep moving for the entire battle. Like, you do not want Kirby to advance RNG at all. RNG will advance based on Wispy's attacks, but you don't want to do anything to influence RNG at all. So the way this fight is handled with manip movement, if you made it this far, is basically start by getting hits on this middle and left Wispy Jr., and then attack or go back to the right, and then hit this guy once, walk under him, hit him again. And after defeating that last Wispy Jr., Wispy will sometimes spit an apple. That is fine if he does that. It will still give you the pattern where he shoots the roots right away. So if he shoots the apple or if he doesn't, it's perfectly fine. Unless the attack happens to be a puff or apples or something, then something is screwed up. But basically, we'll shoot apples once, just take him out. Normally, get 3 hits on both attacks, keep moving, grab the crystal. And that is World 1. So if you made it this far, congratulations. You have learned how to manipulate World 1. 2-1. There's some more counting later on. The first couple rooms are handled like normal, however. Just lots of double firing here in the beginning. Speed it up a little bit. The main counting section is in the auto-scroller room as well, so you got plenty of time to get all your counting done. I should note RNG will advance here as you throw away the double fire. So there's the first advancement of RNG, besides entering the level. Here, just take out the mini-boss like normal. And then in the the Sandross room, you want to stand still. So before we count, get to the right of the room, stand still, and then you want to count to 12 with ducking and standing still. So advance RNG 12 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then carry out the rest of the room like normal. Speed it up a little bit more. And then here at the top, you want to stand still and then turn into the rock, because what this will do is when Waddle Dee breaks open the ceiling and the rock power gets broken, Kirby will stand still again. So that will advance RNG once in itself. So advance RNG twice at the top of that room, basically. and then carry the rest of
We're about to get 331 by pillars.
this out pretty normally. If done, the key things to note here, you do want to spit the rock for the combo. And then Sparky, if you're on the right value, Sparky should jump to the left. So like that. He'll jump towards you, which brings him closer. And there's no worry about Sparky doing the attack, which this is actually something that was considered when coming up with the manip, because it's the fastest way to get this combo. So manip, it's not just the big things like boss battles and Rick combinations, it's small things like this as well. They've all been taken into consideration. But after getting that Sparky combo, basically just finish the level like normal. I don't think there's anything else here. Sparky, when coming back, Sparky may jump straight up or he may jump to the left. Either one of those scenarios is fine, as long as for the first combination he jumped to the left. And then you don't want to take him out, just let him live. It'll advance RNG a couple more times, but that's fine. And then for this picnic, you want this layout when completing the level. That's how you know it'll be on the right value. So that's 2-1.
0.8.
2-2.
Time save there, so that's pretty good.
Don't want to take out that Sparky. Just let him be. Throw out the power here. I don't know why I did that. Yeah, throw away the power there to advance it again.
Please.
And then another Sparky movement coming up that was taken into consideration with the manip is right here. Sparky will jump. He'll do sort of like a mid-height jump towards you so that you can slide off this platform and do a puff cancel into him. Like that. To take him out nice and easy. But you do want to take out Sparky before he does any other jumps or any other attacks right there. So that is very important to get rid of that Sparky. Let's see. I don't think there's too much else before the second last room. So I'll speed it up a little bit here. In the second last room, there's some important stuff as well, including Sparkies. So I'll show you that in a sec. Alright, so there's 2 Sparkies in this room. One right here, and one further along. You have to take these Sparkies out as quickly as you can before they do their spark attack. And it feels like an extremely tight window for taking them out, but if you don't get hit by anything or you don't slow down at all, you will pretty much get it every time. Like right there, you can see how close Sparky was to doing the attack. Like you can see the bolts of lightning right there. But that doesn't actually count as having advanced RNG at all. So it's an extremely tight window, but you'll get the hang of it as you do it more, I promise. It's not as scary. And then throw away firepower there to advance RNG again. And then the DDD section, not only this one, but pretty much any DDD section, it's pretty much impossible to advance RNG as DDD, like while controlling King DDD. So nothing in this room, unless there's some external factor like an enemy or a background element, which only applies in 4.4, I believe, with that DDD section. You don't have to worry about RNG advancing for this section in 2.2. If you've done the level correctly, the layout will look like this. And another thing I should note is that with this tutorial, I'm going to submit to speedrun.com a cleaned up Word document, basically, of all the notes for all the steps on what to do, and also upload the Excel spreadsheet that Riolu made of all of the various picnics that you can land on throughout the run, because there are some levels that you can land on, or you can finish them on multiple different values and get the same RNG value picnics when leaving. Like the layouts are a little bit different, but you'll still be good to go. I'll be uploading those to speedrun.com. Please excuse the dog. So yeah, once again, Sparky will be attacking right there. Just leave him be and spit for that curling combo. And then right here, this is sort of a riskier way that I do the beginning of this level. Basically, just start curling as you enter, and then run and curl into these boneheads. Ideally, you would freeze all 4 of them, but like right here, I didn't freeze this third one, so we'll keep that in mind until we get to the end of this room. Don't want to freeze this first one of these 2 blocks. Do want to freeze the second one, because remember, the bonehead enemies advance RNG as they descend from their flight, so keep that in mind. Right here, you want to freeze that one that came with you as it's flying down. This one right here, you want to leave be. You want to let it fly. And just keep on moving. And then if you did not freeze one of the boneheads in the beginning, you do want to freeze this one right here at the end of the room. But if you did freeze all 4 of them at the beginning, then you do not freeze that bonehead. So keep that in mind. Mini boss done normally. Let's see what the next instance is. I think it's just about it in terms of RNG, in terms of all the advancements that you want to do, or that you can handle until the end of the level. And then I'll make note of this now, just because it's important to keep in mind. You do want to try and leave this level with at least 4 HP, and that's preparation for the next level, and I'll explain that why when we get there. But you can also leave with 3 HP, but any lower than that, if you leave this level with any lower than 3 HP, then you're going to want to grab a tomato or a piece of food at the picnic before you move on to 2-4. So just keep that in mind. I'll explain in the next level when we get there why that's important. Yeah, basically speed through this, just float up the water like normal. Yada, yada, yada. Leave the level. And if you've done everything correctly, the picnic will look exactly like that. And again, if you have any lower than 3 health, you do want to grab either the tomato or the chocolate bar right here. Even if you do have 3 health, it would be good to grab something. Alright, beginning of this level. This is one of the big benefits of Manip, by the way, is that we get to hang on to Curling Stone for the entire first segment, and the entirety of this level, actually. So this first segment is a lot faster since you're holding on to Curling Stone instead of ditching it for Bomb. So that in itself saves a lot of time. I don't know exactly how much. And then a couple other parts of the level later on are sped up by that as well. Alright, so the reason you want to leave the previous level with ideally at least 4 health is for this room right here. So normally you float up and take damage twice off of 2 of the cannons, one of them over here on the right and one of them over here on the left, in order to skip waiting for this platform to rise all the way up. The reason you want at least 4 health is so you can take those hits, and then in the next room, we're going to be ducking to advance RNG, and we can't advance RNG if we're at 1 health, because Kirby will be in the hurt animation. So that will not advance RNG if you duck and stand still. Now, let me back up a little bit and explain. If you come in here with 3 health, you can wait until the platform is about right here or so. Like right underneath this second middle cannon, I believe, before starting to float. Basically, what you'd have to keep in mind is that while you're on the platform, you got to keep moving in order to prevent standing still and advancing RNG, and don't take any hits from the cannons, obviously, because that will just ruin everything. But yeah, if you got 3 health, keep moving, wait till the platform is about here, and then start floating towards the cannon on the left. But again, if you do the previous levels properly, it won't be hard to enter these levels with 4 health. Like, I came in here with full health, so not too crazy to do. And then in this level, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing some advancing. So right here, you're going to want to jump on the yellow platform and duck 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Advance RNG 5 times, and then do task blocks normally. And then, quick little curl right here. The pattern in this room is going to be tree, star, the first 2, and then the cloud, which is the very last one. That will always be the pattern. That is something that Manip takes care of, and that's the main reason we don't have to get the light bulb anymore, and we can keep the curling stone. Save a bunch of time with the horizontal movement. Right here on this platform, you're going to want to stand still before getting up here to advance RNG once. Take out this mini boss like so. And you might remember that in the list, you probably don't remember, but in the list in the beginning, like before I started doing all this, I said the Spark Eye enemy, so this one, advances RNG when it hits a wall, not a floor or a ceiling. So after taking out the mini boss and coming back to grab the crystal, you want just to be safe, you want to take it out with like a puff cancel. I actually missed it there, but it went towards the floor, thankfully. So it didn't end up hitting a wall there. But for safety, it is generally better to take it out. And then if you've done it successfully, the picnic will look like that. That will be your layout at the end of 2-4. I'm actually going to take a drink of water here quick. A lot of talking happening right now. So picks. What you want to do for this fight, very boring, beginning of the fight. You want to duck twice to advance RNG twice, and then hold the power in your mouth. And then avoid the first set of attacks, and then you just stand still until you hit the top. Unfortunately, 2x is the fastest. Fast forward can go. But yeah, all the key thing to keep in mind is duck twice, and then hold the power in your mouth while the platform goes up. And then here, I'll slow it back down. But in the third set of attacks, eventually when they start coming back clockwise, you do want to run to this position over here, in the middle of the blue and the green platforms. So right about there, and I usually stand a little bit to the right of the exact middle of the platform. And that's important because this is going to get the fastest possible defeat of picks. So basically, start by jumping straight up and spitting your combo to the right to get hits on the red and green. Absorb the blue, spit it to the left, absorb the green, spit it over there, absorb the red, spit it to the left, and then final blue hit right there. And then you want to keep moving. You do not want to advance RNG anymore. After you've taken out picks, grab the crystal, and that is World 2. So if you made it this far, congratulations. It's about 1/20th of the run done. Not actually, though. Anyway, World 3, Oceany, Watery World. Not too much to keep track of until we hit the second room, so I'll speed it up a little bit. You just do this part normally.
Because it would be on 3DS with the circle.
And then, here's another level where you gotta concentrate a little bit and keep track of some things. So, off to the right here, there's these green enemies. I don't exactly remember their names. I think it's like Zabons or Gabons or something. But these things advance RNG simply by existing. So, what I do, because this will be important for the next room, you'll be able to tell what RNG value you're on. What I do, I'll slow it down to half speed. I come up to this platform and then take a step to the right before jumping to continue floating up the room. And the reason I do that is to keep the green enemies loaded a little bit longer and advance RNG a little bit more. And you'll see why in this next room. So here you want to fire once and then throw it away to advance RNG there. Hold the penguin in your mouth, and these gloms right here in the walls, the frogs that pop out to try and bite you. As they blink, they advance RNG. And in order to tell what value you're on, if this first one blinks right before you pass it, so here it did not blink right before I passed it, then you are one value too far ahead. And I don't remember exactly if there's a strat on how to solve that. If there is, I'll put it in the description of the YouTube video. I don't think we ever really came up with anything, because usually it's not a problem. Usually you're behind or on the right value. But if I remember a strat later, I'll put it in the description of the video and make note of it. But basically, these next three gloms, if this second one blinks right before you pass it, so slow it down a little bit. It's like right here. It blinks right as I'm approaching, the second one. That means that you are on the correct RNG value for the rest of the level. If this third one blinks right before you pass it, you are one behind, and if the second one, the last one, the fourth one, blinks right before you pass it, you are two values behind. So in order to fix that, what you'll do, I'm not going to do it in this video because I got the correct value.
I feel like they're kind of biased.
But yeah, basically you can see as I pass the third and the fourth one, they will not blink. It's like right here. Doesn't blink before it attacks, and then this one also does not blink before it attacks. So spit for that snowman combo. And basically what you would do to advance RNG, either once or twice if you needed it, would be, the fastest way to do it would be enter this room and then stand still after passing through the door. And then if you need to advance it a second time, just duck or jump and then stand still, and that will advance it twice. So then this room, continue normally. I don't think there's anything in here that advances RNG. And this mini boss, so important thing to keep track of here is that these tick enemies at the bottom, whenever they spawn, they advance RNG, I believe twice, is what the notes that I have say. Basically, ideally you want to carry out this mini-boss without freezing either of them, or taking either of them out. If you do end up freezing one of them, and another one spawns in time, or like there's enough time for another one to spawn, then you may be able to save it by either taking out Sparky here, or sort of at the end of this room, when there's the Zeus enemies throwing lightning bolts, if you take them out faster than usual to prevent them from throwing lightning, then that might save it. But typically, you're kind of screwed if you do end up killing one of the tick enemies in the bottom. So usually it will not happen. It is kind of rare, at least in my experience. So hopefully you don't have to fix anything. But one thing to keep in mind would just be If you do take out one of those tick enemies, you would be 2 values further than where you need to be. So, try taking out one of the enemies that advances RNG in the hopes that it will fix your value that you're on. And then basically you're right there. As we finish up this level, as you slide off that platform, pull the power out, and then jump into this Zeus enemy to get rid of it so you don't end up throwing it to advance RNG anymore. And then you may remember in the beginning of this video, I mentioned that grabbing a card at the picnic will advance RNG a lot. So first of all, this is the layout you will get if 3-1 is done correctly. And then you do want to grab this card in order to end up on the correct value going forward. So keep that in mind, very important. I have forgotten that many times on many runs. 3-2 here. There's a bunch of dandelions in the front. Another thing, so normally, like in a Maniplus run, after landing on this platform, you would slide off to go a little bit faster. With the Manip route, it's safer to walk off in order to keep the Sparky that was over here to the left spawned a little bit longer, or loaded a little bit longer, I should say, so that it gets off another jump and can advance RNG again. Because there have been times where I've been playing on emulator and had the RAM or the RNG value accessible, and I've slid off that platform and it's actually prevented RNG from advancing because Sparky will deload from the game. So to keep that in mind, just walk off this platform here. I think the next thing is with the mini boss, so we'll speed up a little bit here. Basically, just play this out normally. Hold the rock enemy in your mouth all the way up until the combo. Then spit it away for the volcano power. Now remember, I mentioned that volcano shots advance RNG either 2 or 3 times. So here, for this mini-boss, you want to position yourself underneath the platform so you can break it, obviously, with a shot. And you want to shoot exactly 8 shots. It's okay if you shoot 9. You can still work with that. I believe you can still work with 7 shots as well, but I'm not too familiar with that strat. Let me see if I can find it here quick. Okay, yeah, if you shoot 7 shots, then you can shoot just 1 more shot, and you'll be fine. If you shoot 9, then basically at the start of the river ride section with Waddle Dee, you would not jump at all in the beginning. So right here, I'll slow it down a bit. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then float up to get the shard, pull out the power, and throw it for the last 2 hits on the mini-boss right there. And then this river ride, I couldn't really make bullet point notes of it because it's much easier to show. Basically, if you've shot 8 shots, then at the beginning here you want to jump 3 times and then wait after each jump to advance it 3 times. If you shot 9 shots out of the volcano, then you would not do any of those 3 jumps. Basically, going through this video here, I'll show you the spots where you do want to jump in order to go the fastest and in order to keep Manip going. So right here at the bottom of this first slope, I'm going to do a full jump there. And then right here, do a full jump and then jump through the food. If you need to grab health, that is. Basically, jumping on the bottom of a downward slope, of a steep downward slope, is best because you'll keep your momentum, the faster momentum, going horizontally. Here you want to jump, you want to keep jumping in between those 2 platforms in order to prevent it from advancing at all there. And then for this shard grab, you want to grab it and then do a small jump when you hit the bottom, because if you don't, then RNG will advance here. It'll advance once as it normally would. But then if you stay on the ground for too long before jumping over this platform, it'll advance again. So doing that quick short hop will keep it from advancing that extra time. So short hop after hitting the ground, jump over that platform, jump off the edge of that platform. Then here, you want to jump over that, and then immediately do a full jump after you hit the ground. So you just fall right to the next level. Keep it from advancing RNG at all. And then here, in order to get the faster exit from the river ride, you want to jump, you want to do a full jump when about the front half of the box is, or sorry, I believe it's the latter, the back half of the box is past the edge of the waterfall. So like, slow it down here. It's like right about there. I guess that's about the front half. It's tough to say. I'm pretty sure the further back, the better, if I remember correctly. It's not something super hard to get down, honestly. But basically, if you do jump correctly, you'll enter this final little like loading zone. Like it kind of, the game takes control, and Kirby and Waddle Dee start panicking. You'll enter that spot with all of your horizontal momentum, so you'll run over the final waterfall faster. And then here, do a little inhale before hitting the ground to prevent bouncing. Grab a crab, and then get the invincibility candy. From here on out, I don't think there's any more RNG advancements, so just grab a crystal like normal. And then carry out the river climb like normal. Sorry, this is kind of... If this gives anybody motion sickness, I apologize. Yeah, basically finish the level as normal. If you've done it correctly, you'll end up with this layout. The end of 3-2.
Nice.
3-3.
Alright, for the love of...
So,
Can we get through this level?
this one's not
In the green.
too complicated. There's some new movement that you would need to practice, and towards the end of the level, we'll point it out when we get there, but nothing's going to happen with RNG until a little bit further ahead when we get rid of our power. So right here, you want to make sure that you do throw away the power. If not, that will affect something later, and I'll point that out when we get there. But basically, with that cutter attack, it could, like when you hold the power above your head, it could break the attack just while you're holding it before you can throw it. And that will prevent RNG from advancing, which will mess with the rock cutter combination stuff a little bit later on. But I'll, again, point it out when we get there. You handle all this like normal, spit for the combo.
Very confused.
Nothing else except, well, when leaving this area, this spot right here, it's good. So when you, I'll show you. When you land on this platform right here, you slide into that block and pull out your power. Typically, Kirby will end up holding it in his mouth, and then you spit it away here. If the cutter enemy broke the fire when you were holding it earlier, you would want to throw this power away here in order to get that RNG advancement that you missed. So that's something to keep in mind.
Why?
And then for this next section, there's a risky piece of movement I do that I call fast combo
Do that slow combo?
right here. It's like just continuing to move forward and jumping and spitting the power into that enemy. That does not have to be done. You can just do it normally where you stand still before that enemy and short hop and spit it out. Fast combo just saves about a second, which is why I started doing it in runs. So for this mini-boss, basically, after you get the combo...
I just walked that whole thing. Nice.
So here, the transformation... For the second one, after you get that first hit where you bounce off, the second one, if you're on Kine, then you're good to go. So get all those hits in, and then falling down here, you'll turn into Rick. You want to break that, transform again, you'll turn into Pitch, and then when you come over here, it'll be quote-unquote first try Rick. Technically second, but effectively first try Rick. So that was something else that was taken into consideration with the making of the manip. And then here's the new piece of movement. So after doing that Rick section, here you're actually going to transform again because you'll become Pitch, the bird. And this movement right here, where you float up these platforms, is the fastest way to get up here. So that was another thing that was taken into account with the making of the manip. So pretty cool stuff. Then just break the power, leave the level. If you've done it properly, it will be on this picnic layout right here. Now, 3-4. There is a safe way to do this first part and a more risky way. The safe way is basically, as soon as the level starts, you'll want to float all the way to the top and then transform into the animal and hold right all the way down so that you float down and to the right of the screen. The riskier way, if you do it the safe way, then you can carry out the level like normal. I'll explain how it would be carried out, because it's basically the first part of this level and the last part of this level that are all that matter, really. So that's the safe strat, would be floating all the way up and then transforming, because this is the room that has the torpedo enemies that shoot across and are constantly advancing RNG just as they're loaded onto the screen. The risky strat is just mash B as soon as the level starts and hold right to transform immediately and float all the way to the bottom. So yeah, those missile enemies right there are what advance RNG. If you've done the riskier strat, you'll want to break the power when you are right about even with this enemy right here. So right around there. And then no matter which strat you picked, you want to pull out the power, break it off the top of this door when floating through. Now, if you've done the safe strat, then you will always leave this room at RNG 331. If you did the risky strat, you can either leave this room at 331, 332, 333, or 334. In all of these instances, there's a way to tell what value you're on based on the way that the falling boulders break. Like if you can hear the pattern that they break in the background. I'm actually going to put a link in the description because Riolu made a very in-depth video on how to track the way that these boulders break and what to listen for, and which value you'll leave this room on. But basically, you know, I'll link the video to that in the description, but basically the way this works is that with the safe strat, and if you've done the risky strat but still landed on 331 anyway, then at the end of the level you'll have to wait for an extra boulder to hit the wall, because the boulders like fly sideways, and I'll point that out when we get there. If you've landed on 332, you'll have to advance RNG 2 more times, once throwing the fish away and once throwing away something else later on in the level. If you're on 333, that's ideal. You just throw away the fish and then you're good to go. And if you land on 334, you would spit away the fish. So again, I'm not going to go too in depth with it here. I'll link Riolu's video in the description. So go ahead and check that out in order to see what you should be paying attention to. So yeah, as I mentioned, after this room, there's not too much going on until the final room, but I'll speed it up a little bit. If you did finish that room on value 332, and you need to throw away the fish and one other thing, ideally you would just throw away something in this room. So, you could pick up one of the enemies on the wall, or on the ceiling up here, or on the floor, inhale them, and then throw them away to advance it again. This is probably the fastest way to take care of that situation. Then pretty much just play normally till the final room. So I'll speed it up a little bit here. There's the bomb to take out the mini-boss, as per usual. And then, here, if you ended on 331, these are some things to just keep in mind, but if you ended on 331, the boulder will be way up high here. So I'm actually, I believe, on 334 right now, so that boulder was about halfway up the screen. It was a little bit lower than the boulder would appear at 331. So that's how you know you're on the right value. This is one of those things that if you practice this part enough, you'll sort of get the hang of how the boulders move. But basically, if you did end on 331, or you did the safe strat, before leaving the level, you would have to wait right here for one more boulder to hit the wall before leaving. And then no matter what value you ended on, this would be the picnic layout that you get. And the reason, I forgot to mention this, but the reason you gotta wait for one more boulder to hit the wall is that every time they do, they advance RNG twice. So that's why you have to wait for one more to hit the wall. Now, for Acro, the strat here, because Acro advances RNG just as he exists. So the strat here is basically just beat it as fast as you can. Like, finish the fight as quickly as possible. And another thing that was kept in mind with the manip is that Acro, after the first phase, will be finished very low down on the screen, so that no time is wasted from him floating down all the way from the top. So yeah, as I mentioned, take out the first phase as quickly as possible. Second phase, what's actually going to happen is that Acro is going to do the attack where he shoots up the middle of the screen. So the way you take care of that is just 5 hits during all this, and then sort of float up about here to the upper right, and then start throwing bombs down here to the bottom left, because that's where Acro is going to spawn when he comes back. So basically you'll get that final hit off screen, and then the fastest way to handle this ending is to put the power in your mouth and float to the top, because Kirby's hitbox goes a little bit above the screen and you can grab the shard earlier. Or you can just, take out the bomb power and float up to the top and it'll break and you'll get rid of it like normal. Either way, that is World 3. Congratulations on making it all the way here. I'm sure there's things that I'm kind of messing up a little bit, some things that I missed. But again, if corrections do need to be made, I will try my best to edit them into the YouTube video or add them in the description, any side notes, or in the area, again, down here below the camera. So hopefully it's nothing too drastic that I'm missing. Anyway, 4-1. There's not too much going on here. You basically handle the beginning like normal, just weave through everything. First instance of RNG actually does not come into play until quite a bit later. So I'll keep it sped up a little bit. One thing to note, so in this room I do the faster strat. That saves about 2 or 3 seconds. That does not have to be done because RNG does not advance in this room. So if you do the normal, safer, a little bit slower strat, you'll be fine. You don't have to do the crazy stuff that we do there. Take out the mini-boss, like that, and then when you land on this swinging platform, you'll want to stand still at some point to advance RNG once, and then run and jump off like normal, and then only other thing that affects RNG is in this final room. So basically, as I mentioned, these flower enemies right here, the floras, they just constantly advance RNG as they're falling. If you do it the way that I do it, you'll pretty much be good to go on getting the right picnic value. But this is one of those levels where if you finish on multiple RNG values, it's hard to explain, but again, I'll put the spreadsheet of all the picnics that you can land on speedrun.com, and then I'll link to it in the description of the video. But basically, every other RNG value that you leave the room on for a certain section of the RNG, you will get the right RNG value. The picnic layouts will be a little bit different, but you will end on the right value. And the good thing, if I remember correctly, is that as these advance RNG, they advance it by 2 each. Or maybe they advance it by 1, but because there's usually 2 of them at a time, that advances it twice. Can't remember exactly, but if you play this normally, like I do, you take out these first couple here. You take out the first 5 rather, and then fly under these 2. If you do that, and don't drop your single fire or anything, you'll pretty much always be good to go. It's not as hard as it may sound to end on the right value. But yeah, if you get the right picnic, it'll look like this. And then, as I mentioned before, there's a couple others you can actually end on. So the spreadsheet to the picnics for each level, all the possible ones you can land on, I'll link to that in the description below. You can check that out for yourself. So then here, RNG will advance twice when you enter that level and when you throw the power for the dynamite combo. And then I'll take a quick drink of water again. Quick break. For the minecart section, this is a little bit different from the river ride in that you do want to constantly be jumping for 2 reasons. First of all, similar to the river ride, if you stay on the ground for too long, that will advance RNG. But also, with the minecart and the sled in 5.1, every time you jump, you actually move horizontally faster for 1 frame. So each of those jumps does add up to legitimate time save. But besides the constant jumping, the main things you want to keep track of in this room are that there are 3 Sparkies. One right there. You want to take that one out so it doesn't do any more attacks. And there's one once you hit the bottom of this hill right here. So right here, you want to take that one out. And then on the other side of this rock, there's bonehead enemies. These ones, even though they do advance RNG when they descend from their flight, you don't have to worry about taking them out because you go fast enough anyway that they sort of despawn and don't get the chance to advance RNG anyway. But then again, as I mentioned, third Sparky right here, you want to make sure you take that one out as well. This room, there's some gloms, the frogs that are in the wall. If you move at a constant speed, RNG will be fine. If you stand still in that section for too long, or in this section right here, they might blink too many times and advance RNG too many times, so just try and keep moving as quickly as possible if you can. Which, movement there, in my opinion, is not too tricky, so it shouldn't be too hard. The next instance of RNG is not for quite a bit, so I'm going to speed it up here.
Just stream more, lol. Also, I wonder if it's 60...
One way that you can tell if you're on the right RNG value is with the mini-boss, the layout of the enemies will always be the same. So I'll show you that whenever we get there. Let's grab that shard, and then mini-boss fight. So basically, first wave of enemies will spawn like this. You can kind of jump or do like a short hop and throw the dynamite to make it hit this enemy faster and blow them all up. Second wave of enemies will spawn sort of up here in the top right, clustered like that. Third wave will be over here and over here. So throw it to the left, and then that'll take all them out. And the final wave will spawn sort of like this, similar to the previous one. Some to the left, some to the right. I just throw the dynamite to the left to hit one of these two. Blows them all up. It's nice and fast. So, if you got that pattern of the mini-boss, then what you would do after leaving is right here, throw away the power, and then stand still to advance RNG twice. And then you should be good to go. So the picnic layout that you will have will look like this. You'll be very close to the card, but since Kirby rotates up first, if you mash jump, you're pretty much good to go. Like, you're not in any danger of grabbing the card by accident. So it's not really anything to worry about. 4-3, another level with not too much going on. But one key thing that I do, this isn't 100% necessary to do, but it makes it a lot easier, is right here, so this bonehead, you're going to want to jump up, and then it's going to float a little bit. You're going to want to headbutt it to stall it from continuing to move for a split second. What that's going to do, also this blue propeller chased after you, that's another RNG advancement. But what headbutting that bonehead is going to do is that right here, it's going to land on this block instead of hitting Kirby. Like, if you didn't do that headbutt, it would start descending sooner, and it would run into Kirby, which is not good because it has to do another flight right here, where it will drop right there. So it advances RNG a total of twice. So the headbutt makes it easier to avoid it when it's on its first flight path, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it's probably the quickest way to do that as well. So backup would be, you know, if it did descend and hit Kirby, then you would have to advance RNG once more. So maybe stand still after taking damage there. But yeah, basically the thing to keep in mind is that RNG will advance 3 times in that first room, with the 2 bonehead descents and then the propeller chasing after you. And then for the rest of this, it's basically curling movement, like normal. And then if you're on the right pattern, you'll always get the Tophat here. which is the fastest one to complete. Tophat fastest, Pizza second fastest, Parasol slowest. Yeah, we'll get the Tophat here, make quick work of it. And then should be nothing else that messes with RNG from here to the end. If I recall correctly. And the picnic will look like this. If you've finished it correctly. All right.
Keep getting that straight up jump. That's good.
This next level is very cursed. 4-4. You may have heard me complain about it a lot in runs. That is because there are a ton of things that advance RNG, and there's a ton of things that you have to keep track of and react to, depending on how RNG is moving, like where you're at with everything. So, I'm going to try my best to explain this as well as I can. I'm sure there's something I'm going to miss, but we'll try. So, beginning of this level, in this first room, you got the boulders falling from the ceiling. Those, as they fall, advance RNG. God, sorry, my throat's kind of dry. Too much talking. All right. The boulders in this first room, just as they spawn and fall, they are constantly advancing RNG. Various amounts. I don't know if it depends on the size of the boulders or what. But the strat here is, just like Acro, go as fast as you can. Just get out of this room as quickly as you possibly can. There's not much more to it. In this room, each of these firebirds, throughout the whole level, keep in mind, advance RNG as they drop rocks. But in this room, depending on the value that you are at after the first room, this, I believe they're called magoos, but this I'll just call them fire enemies. This first one that hops out of the lava can jump either about your height or it can jump much higher, so about up here. If it jumps to the lower height, then you are on the faster, or the, how do I explain this? The further ahead RNG value. You're on B5. If it jumps higher, then there's two possibilities of what you're on. So basically, keep track of that. If it jumps low, then you will not take out any more of the firebirds for the rest of this room. If it jumps high,
Nice.
you want to take out this bird immediately after. So that's one thing you have to react really quickly to. Maybe if that thing jumps high, kill this bird, like curl through it. Leave that bird alone, no matter what. And then, if you're on the faster value, like I said, when the first thing jumped low, don't worry about any of these. But if the first enemy jumped high, pay attention to the second and third enemies that pop out of the lava here. So I messed up my information a little bit for this part when doing it live, so I'm going to just re-record. Basically, if the magoo on the right jumps low, then you will be on RNG value B8, which means you will not kill any more burnesses until the end of the room. And if the middle magoo jumps low, then you will be on B9, and you will have to take out the final burness before leaving the room. So B9 is one value too far. If you're on B8, then you don't have to worry about anything else for the rest of this room. If you're on B9, then you will have to take out this firebird right there. The one that we just passed. So So you want to take out that bird so it doesn't drop any more rocks. That is if you ended on B9.
Didn't land there and I almost killed the bird.
If you were on value B5, you're going to leave this room at C7 is the hex value. If you were on B8 or B9, and if you were on B9 and you killed that bird, you will leave this room at C9, so 2 values ahead.
Would have been pretty bad.
Depending on which one
Back.
that you ended on, a couple things will be a little bit different in this room. Basically, don't kill these birds, don't mess with the enemy in the lava there, or either of those. If you ended on C7, so if you're on the faster value, these bow enemies right here will sort of be in this pattern. These two will be off to the left, so you take them out with the hammer, and then this one you'll sort of headbutt as you run to this platform. If you were on C9, so the slower value, the bow enemies here will be sort of clumped up, like all together. And you'll just want to hammer them as soon as you can, get rid of all of them as quickly as possible. Because again, as they exist on screen, they advance RNG, so you just get rid of them. Leave this Firebird alone, right there, no matter what. This enemy, if you're on C7, like if you came into this room at the faster value, it will jump low. All you gotta do is jump over it like that. If you were on the slower value, C9, then it will jump higher, like it will get in the way of your jump. If it does jump high, you don't want to kill it. You don't want to take it out. You want to leave it alone, because if you do take it out, then it's not going to continue jumping, which will mess up RNG. So you just want to, get past it if it does jump high right there.
Hooray.
Then here, again, if you're on the faster RNG, this should jump low enough for you to jump over it. If you're on the slower one, if I remember correctly, jumps high again. So again, you would want to just avoid it. Don't take it out. And then here, you can just hammer this bow enemy normally with the fire enemy right there. So that room, you can probably tell already, 3 rooms in, there's a lot going on. Hopefully, I'm doing an okay job of explaining it. If I'm not, I'll make corrections later. Anyway, for this room, carry it out normally in the beginning. Take out this Firebird right here. Leave that one alone. Take out Sparky right here. And you can probably see, so remember I'm on the faster value, faster RNG. Sparky did a short hop to the right and then a straight up short hop. So that's one way that you can know you're on the right value. If I remember correctly, I think if you got the faster or the slower RNG, it should be synced up at this point. It's like Sparky should be jumping that way. I could be misremembering. But either way, there is a way to fix it later on that I'll show you. If you are still 2 values too far. But missing some things here. So, yeah, right here, take out that Burnus, that Firebird. Take out this one right here. And this one you're going to leave alone. And if you're on the faster value, here's another way to tell if you're doing good with the RNG. So Sparky does sort of like a high hop to the left. But you'll do want to take out that Sparky before it does any other attacks. And leave the Firebird alone as well. Okay, and then here, curl once, throw it away, spit the 2 fire enemies into each other, leave the Firebird alone, And pick up double fire. You'll probably hear in the background the bird continuing to drop rocks, so it does continue advancing RNG for a little bit, but that's what you want. And then this room, I'm not sure if those bonehead enemies off to the left stay loaded long enough to mess with RNG at all. You might be going a little too fast. But then you got this firebird here that's advancing RNG. All the things that hop out of the lava are advancing RNG. Okay, yeah, boneheads do continue to follow you and advance RNG. Those aren't things you need to pay attention to. The only thing in this room that you need to pay attention to, I'll show you in a sec, is right here. So this enemy, for me, it jumped kind of high right here. It can either jump really high or it can jump floor level. If it jumps high, you want to slide under it and then double fire. If it jumps low, you'll want to hop over it and double fire. And then, depending on if it jumped high or low, if it jumped high, that means you're a little bit behind on the RNG that you need. So you would not kill this bird right here. If it jumped low, that fire enemy that came out of the lava, if it jumped about floor height, you would take out this bird because that means you are 2 values ahead. And this bird, when you pass it here, continues to drop rocks before it hits that lava wall.
I made it through without something stupid happening.
And then this room, just want to float up here, take out that Sandman. Here you got a bonehead descending and advancing RNG. Right here, throw the double fire to advance it again. And then inhale the cutter and leave normally. And if you have done all of that correctly, this is the layout that you will see. The end of 4-4. And if you've made it all the way here, that is a massive accomplishment. Let me tell you what. Now, Magman, at the very start of the battle, you'll want to duck 5 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. After that, you want to pull out the power, hold it in your mouth, and face to the left. And then spit for that combo. And after you spit for the combo, stand still. So I'll slow it down a little bit. So stand still. Inhale the power, absorb it, stand still again. Those are important. And then you'll pull out the sword, hold it to the right, and you'll get 3 hits on this middle tentacle right there. Throw the sword away so that you stand still. Then pull it out again. Face the sword to the right for the first hit. Jump to the right and hit this plume right here. And then hold it to the left for that final hit. And then throw the sword, duck, and then pull the sword out again to advance RNG twice more. And if you've done all that correctly, then for the second phase, Magman will hit the ceiling and drop some rocks. Just like this. And what you want to do is for the first 3 hits, hold the sword to the left, like that, and just keep jumping into him to get the first 3 hits. For the 4th hit, you want to throw the sword at him. Then for the final 2 hits, you want to pull out the double power and throw it at him. So that would advance RNG once with throwing the power combo. And then keep moving after you defeat Magman to avoid advancing it anymore. Grab the shard. And it's the end of World 4. Another water break. Yeah, that is the end of World 4. Alright. World 5. If you made it here, huge congrats. First thing that's already advancing RNG is the Frigis right here, the ice bird. Don't have to worry about that, just keep running past it. That was the first bird, so what you're going to want to do is take out the second, fourth, and fifth ice birds. Now if you do, for some reason, end up hitting the third bird, then you can just leave the fourth one alone, like let it live, or let the fifth one live. But key would be to take out 3 of the birds, 3 of the 5 birds.
Right, dude. Please.
So second, fourth, and fifth right here. And these birds, as they follow you, are going to continually advance RNG. But if you're moving at constant pace, it shouldn't cause any problems. Second room, not too much going on. The sled section functions the same as the minecart. You're going to want to keep jumping here, because if you stay on the ground too long, especially after landing after a jump, then you will be advancing RNG. So just keep jumping through this whole section, and then there's something to react to a little bit later. Speed it up. Nah, I don't have to speed it up. I'll just let it play. So right here, this Sparky. Let me make sure I get this correct. So right here, it's short hopped to the left. I have to advance RNG 3 times before leaving this sled section. If the Sparky does a big hop to the right, I only advance RNG twice. So no matter which situation you get, you advance RNG once here by staying on the ground after taking out the Sparky. And then I did that extra one right there because Sparky did the short hop to the left, and I had to advance it 3 times. But if you were only advancing it twice, like if Sparky did the big hop to the right, then you would just keep jumping right here before the igloo. And then the second time, second/third time you would advance RNG would be grabbing this crystal. I don't know why I didn't do it there. Okay. For some reason, in this run, I advanced it a 3rd time right before the end. Normally, you would not do that. You would stay on the ground or the roof of the igloo while grabbing the crystal, and that would serve as your 2nd or 3rd RNG advancement. I have no idea. I think I did this because during the run, I didn't know if it was supposed to be 2 or 3 advancements, but I just made a guess and was like, fuck it, advance it a 3rd time. But anyway, this mini-boss, it's another instance of beat it as quickly as possible. So while you're getting these hits off, you want to keep hopping so you recover faster. But if you take too long on this mini-boss fight, there's an ice bird that spawns to the left here that will fly to the right of the room and drop rocks as it flies. You don't want that. So if you take out the mini-boss as quickly as possible, there's no threat of that bird spawning. If it does spawn, what you would have to do is take it out as soon as possible. If you can, keep track of how many rocks it dropped, because that's just 1 advancement per rock. And then take out the ice bird at the very end of the level before leaving the final room, depending on how many RNG advancements you need to save, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna try and kill the
That's
bird at the end a little bit early.
a tricky situation to handle. Like, it's not easy to make amends for if that bird spawned in the mini boss. So ideally, just take out the mini boss as quickly as possible. If not, you're more than likely screwed. I hate to say it, but you can fix it by taking out the bird in the final room, which I'll point out later, a little bit early, like before you leave the room.
Because I got the same sparky movement.
But until then, everything's pretty much the same
I tried moving RNG ahead.
here. I don't believe I missed
Try and move it back.
anything. Just keep in mind these propeller enemies, whenever you pass them, they're going to advance RNG. That's perfectly fine.
It's not gonna be easy.
It's just going to be a constant thing. It's not something you have to be too conscious about. And then here, if everything was done properly, you want to make sure that this ice bird that's going to show up drops 2 rocks before you take it out. So there's 1, and there's 2. Then for this section, the final bird that I was talking about that you would have to take out early is the one that sort of follows you up the mountain here. To the left, like to the down and left right here. And basically, if the bird did spawn in the mini boss, what I was saying earlier when you had to take out this bird early would basically be somewhere around here, like before the ending. You would want to turn around and just puff cancel it to prevent it from advancing any further. Not 100% sure why I did it there, because I don't think I had any problems really, but apparently I did, because somehow this worked. This is a what I like to call bad good picnic. So this is one instance during the run where you can finish the level on 2 consecutive RNG values and end on picnics that are actually at adjacent RNG values. Ideally, you'd want to end on, what is it? 378 is the better picnic. This is RNG value 379. There is a way to fix it, however, so it's not a problem at all. This is 379. 378 has a different layout that you can see in the picnic spreadsheet that I'm going to link in the description. But this is if you're 1 value ahead. That is the layout.
379.
And again, you can still work with it. And we'll show you how later on in this level. Yeah, that was 5-2.
This time, if I spit away...
There's not
it's supposed to.
too much going on here in 5-2. So you just play it like normal. Let's keep it sped up until we get to the part that matters. One thing I should note, in this room, like I mentioned back in 3-1, these green enemies constantly advance RNG as they're loaded on screen. That will not be a problem if you just play this normally and grab the crystal and then immediately leave. But if you shoot off in any other direction, the run is essentially over. There's no way to recover it, because they will advance RNG too much. Now, in this room is where you make amends for if you ended up on a picnic after 5-1 that was 1 value too far. So normally, you fire up to these needle enemies, and you would land on this platform to the right over here and throw away the firepower. But since we're 1 too far, what we want to do is spit the power away, so we don't advance it anymore. So now we are on the value that we should have been on before. And if you're on the right value, then this enemy that comes out of the ceiling right there will be at a height that you can easily jump into it and bop them at. And then these enemies here in this block section will never get in your way.
I think we're good.
So you can just weave through them like that. That's how you know that you're on the right value. If they do get in your way, then I believe you are one value too far, which I don't think there's any way of saving that. You're just, again, kind of screwed. And unfortunately, it's a very common thing with this run. It's like if you get off track or if RNG goes too far, you're essentially just screwed. I hate to say it. It's kind of just the nature of the manip. But anyway, for this part right here, we're going to spit the power into Sparky a little bit further ahead. So what I like to do is before this star block right here, pull the power out, and then while jumping onto that block, put the power in Kirby's mouth, and then jump across. And Sparky, if you're on the right value, will do a high hop just barely to the left, which is perfect positioning for you to just spit power into Sparky and grab it. So that is big time save, big consistent time save. And then for this mini boss, this is important. The key here is that only 4 propeller enemies should spawn in this room. So in order to do that, you have to walk to the middle, right about just to the right of the middle of this block right here, and then get 2 attacks off. Sometimes it's 1 attack, that's okay if that happens. But basically, this propeller would spawn, you would take it out, and then these 2 spawn over here, and then after it goes straight down this part on the right here, the mini boss, it will come out of this part of the wall and go diagonally down right. So you'd walk over to the left again, hit it however many times you need to in order to defeat it. And then once you've defeated it, that will be, so 1 spawned right here, 2, 3, 4. And if you defeat it quickly enough, no more will spawn. And if you've done everything correctly, this right here will be the layout that you are looking for. At the end of 5-2. 5-3. So right off the bat, important thing is to pull the power out before you enter the second room right here. And then shortly after running in here, you're going to want to do a full jump onto the beginning of the escalator in order to spawn this flora up here, the flower enemy, and get it to start moving earlier. Start advancing RNG earlier. And then you're going to want to hop up here and immediately after you land, throw your power combo in order to keep the floras spawned a little bit longer. Since you'll be down lower on the escalator for a longer amount of time. That is the reasoning for why that works. And then carry out the rest of this room like normal. No other RNG actors. For this room, you're going to want to do the... I didn't do it there, but typically you'd want to inhale the enemy here and this enemy for the double star, I guess, and then spit them out to the right to get rid of this enemy.
That's horrendous.
But what I did here is fine. It's good backup. Just as long as you clear out all those enemies and don't jump too high to spawn any of the gloms. But speaking of the gloms, what you do want to do on this bottom floor is do a full jump over this third platform in order to get this glom up here. Like you see how its eyes are open up top. remember every time they blink, they advance RNG, so you want to do a full hop over that platform in order to spawn this right here.
Maybe not. I don't know.
And then one way to know that you're on track is that the glom will blink a lot before you pass it. Or maybe not. I think it's... No, this one blinks a lot. Maybe I'm just crazy. I don't know. Basically, if you did that full jump, you'll be good to go. And then here on the 3rd floor, after leaving the elevator, you want to do a full jump onto this green platform in order to despawn the gloms that are underneath you so that they don't continue blinking and advancing RNG. So you want to do a full jump there, slide off, inhale that needle,
I really don't know.
and then carry out this rest of this room like normal. I think I actually, yeah, screwed up a little bit there.
Can you move? Jesus Christ.
A little bit frustrating, but whatever. You'd want to do that better than I did. Thankfully, that didn't affect RNG, though. So this room, what you want to do for the mini-boss is go in this hole here, and then just take it out like normal. Make sure you don't stand still too long in between these attacks that you do. And then basically, as you're leaving, you're going to want to stay a little bit longer because this enemy on the right here, this bow, is going to float down to the left and then straight down. Like that, and then down. So you want to make sure that as you... Like, I left kind of early there, but it still moved down, which was fine. You want to make sure that it gets both of those movements off. And then, if you're on the right value here, you will get the first 3 fruits in the next room. So peach, cherry, red, brown, pink. I don't remember what the brown one was. Coconut, something, I don't know. Red, brown, pink. This will be your pattern, which is the fastest.
Horrible gameplay happening.
And then, for the rest of this level, there's not too much more going on. Just want to make sure you spit this combo right here. Don't throw. And then these gloms will come out and attack you. If you do it normally, there's no reason they shouldn't. And that's good. Something you want to happen. Speed it up a little bit. Propeller enemy will advance RNG again. Another one. And just carry out this room like normal. I don't think anything in here messes with RNG, so you're pretty much good to go. As long as you don't mess with anything yourself. And then if you've done all that correctly, this will be your picnic layout for the end of 5-3. Five, 4. This one can be a bit of a doozy. It's mainly only one part that's kind of tricky to get past, but once you do that, once you get that down, it's not too bad. So right here, I'm going to carry this out normally, and then you're going to want to throw away this power and make sure that the Firebird only drops 1 rock. It's like right there. It dropped 1 when it was off screen. If it drops twice, there's a chance that you'll be okay, but there's also a chance you'll be too far ahead, which is not good. But that's another thing that's not super hard to do. It's not something you need to heavily focus on. Just keep in mind that Firebird should only drop 1 rock. DDD section, there's nothing going on here in terms of RNG. Just sort of play it out normally. Also, keep in mind, I do skip the final hammer. That's not something you have to do as part of the manip, because it is kind of scary to do that. But just wanted to make a note that it's not super important. And then this room right here. So, You got these two flower enemies. Second one, you don't have to pay attention to. The first one, if when you first see it, it's falling to the left. So for me, it was on the left side of this little vertical tunnel here. If it's falling to the left, you have to advance RNG a total of 12 more times before you enter the final room. If it falls to the right of this tube, you have to advance RNG 11 times before entering the final room. Now, how are we going to do that? So right here, and you do want to fire on this conveyor belt here in order to get to the right sooner and despawn the flowers sooner, the flora enemies, so that they stop advancing RNG. But you do want to make it over here as quickly as possible. Ideally get bumped to the right. And we're going to advance RNG once here by throwing the power away. I'm going to count all of them. So I have to advance it a total of 12 times. There was one with throwing the power away. One here. So that's 2. Throwing the power away again. In the mini-boss, this one is tough because you do have to listen as well. So as soon as you enter, you'll hear the Firebird drop a rock. Twice. So here, right when you enter the room, you'll hear like the noise. And then as you're jumping up to break the cage with the lightsaber, you'll hear it again. So right there is already 2 advancements, which will bring you to 4. Sometimes if you land too far to the right, then the enemy that shoots out of the lava will spawn, which will advance it again. That's okay if that happens, just gotta keep count of it. So again, right now we're at 4. There was a 5th one, you might not have seen it. Very short. Yeah, right there. There's the 5th drop. It's more so an audio cue than a visual cue. But right there's the 5th rock. Or sorry, 3rd rock that will put you on 5 advancements, I should say. So there was a 5th one. And then get those 4 hits and then pull out the power and throw. So rock dropping, that's number 6. Throwing the power, that's number 7. And then this thing coming out of the lava is number 8. So far, out of 12 advancements, we've had 8. It's tricky stuff, I know. This requires a whole bunch of practice. So here, stand still, 9, duck, 10, duck, 11, and then duck again for number 12. So now, I'm going to keep moving whenever I can in order to prevent any more advancements, because we don't want that. And then nothing else going on until the top of the final room. So I'll speed it up a little bit. Just make sure to grab the shard over here to the right. And then, up here at the top, you want to advance RNG before you leave the level 5 more times. And the way that's going to happen is that this Zeus enemy right here is going to drop 1 lightning bolt. Right there. That will advance it once. Kind of slow movement here. This one on the left will throw a lightning bolt. That's 2. That one will throw a second one for number 3. As you inhale that Zeus for the spark, this one will drop another one, and that's 4 advancements total. And then you'll want to absorb the power, stand still for half a second, and that will be number 5. If you've done it correctly, you will get this picnic layout right here. And move on to HR.
All right.
That level is another huge accomplishment to get through, by the way. So here, for HR, we're going to get slap, clap, slap, the Bulby Stroganovsky cycle. In order to do that, before HR does any attacks, we have to advance RNG twice. So I'm going to do a spark attack and shift over to the left a little bit and stand still. That's advancement number 1. And then I'll duck and stand still. That's advancement number 2. We'll get a slap. And then in between that slap and the next attack, the clap, I want to stand still again. So right there. Clap. Keep moving. And then from clap until the end of the fight, you want to keep moving. So you do not want to advance RNG anymore. And what that will do for the second phase, after getting slap, clap, slap, we'll do 2 of these attacks from HRE, where he sort of goes up a little bit. Like you get the first hit when he's down low. Then he goes up a little bit like that. For the second hit, shoots the missile, and then you get the third hit. And then you keep moving while he does this attack. And then you'll get the same thing. So 3 more hits. And then, before leaving the boss fight, throw the power and stand still to advance RNG twice more. And that is World 5.
I gotta focus to get through this.
So World 6.
Not that I've not already been focusing.
There's not too much going on here. There is actually... So, this is one of the instances where, you know, along with the boulder counting in 3-4, Riolu found a consistent way to end on the better picnic at the end of this level. Because normally, you could play this level the exact same way, like 10 times in a row, and for no reason whatsoever end on one of 2 picnics. And one of them I call the good picnic. The other one I call the good picnic. Because with the good picnic, it saves about 4 seconds over the good picnic. Like there's a different route you have to follow to the end of the game. But with the new strat that was made, you can always get the good picnic. So... I'll explain how that's done a bit here. Basically, in the beginning, it's not too much difference from normal route. Just throw away the fire here, absorb needle, or hold needle in your mouth, rather, and absorb it before entering this mini-boss. Like as you're sliding through the door. And then what you're going to want to do is stand still at the beginning of this mini-boss fight to advance RNG once, then run to the middle and handle it normally, get all the hits you need, grab the shard, and then as you walk out of this door, pull the power out so that Kirby holds it right in his mouth. They're actually kind of messed up, but it's okay as long as I'm holding it in Kirby's mouth before getting to the Sparky over here.
Gross, but whatever.
So Sparky will do a short hop to the left and then the spark attack.
It works.
That is a good sign, and you don't want to touch Sparky at all. You don't want to take him out. Activate these couple butterflies right here. And as part of the safety strat, for this second Shatzo, what you're going to want to do, instead of jumping and falling in here to sort of keep your horizontal momentum, you want to walk off into the block, like brush off the block like that. And that will basically keep the, I believe it keeps the flutters active a little bit longer, like loaded a little bit longer, which pretty much all you need to know is that it keeps RNG as it should be. It keeps it on a good value. Then here, that combo by spitting out the power. And finish like normal, and then pull out the power as you walk through transition zone like that. And if you've done it correctly, you will get this layout right here. For the end of 6-1. 6-2, obviously you go back to 6-1 and grab Spark first. Not too much going on here at the beginning. I will, a quick little piece of advice though. If you do move a little bit to the right as you're falling down, then when you hit the water, you can keep Kirby's falling animation and make it past the fish, which actually makes you fall in the water faster than normal. So that's kind of interesting. Anyway, break that block, pull the power out as you go through the door, and then spit for this combo. Do this like normal. And the first thing we need to pay attention to is in the next room. So basically, this room's got more of those bow enemies, the little black like puffball things. Because of the way that they work and where they're spawned, the way that I handle this level is to hug the left side of the first two holes that you jump through. So like right here, as I fall through there, I sort of hug the left side. And then in this next one, I do it again. And that will keep you going on the right value. And then you do the swimming section normally. But when you leave the water, you want to do a full jump out of the water because it will spawn this bow up here. That's exactly what you want to advance it a couple more times. And then here, you want to stand still before grabbing the candy to advance it once more. And then when you hop on this platform, you'll stand still again, which will advance it again. And if you've done everything correctly, this will be your layout right here. 6-3. It's another level where there's honestly not too much going on with RNG. The main room, like you basically played out normally, but the fourth room is the one where you really gotta pay attention to what's going on. I guess in this room there is a Sparky that spawns first in the middle, but there's no reason that you should let it on screen long enough that it does anything. So that normally should not be a problem. Yes, that was the second room. And we got the third room here. Throw the power there, that advances RNG. Get that combo right there, shoot. Get that crystal. So RNG advances only once in that room. So the fourth room, this is where a couple of the enemies that advance RNG spawn in. So like right here in the beginning, we got two of these Flora enemies. Same strat as Acro and as the beginning of 4-4. Take them out as quickly as possible, and you'll be fine. So just take them out right when you enter. Nothing should really change there. You got the bow enemies that spawn second. Again, take them out ASAP. Nothing there. Nothing for the fourth attack, and then the fifth attack, you get 3 of these propellers. Again, take them out as quickly as possible, and you should have no issues with ending on the right RNG value. Then this fifth room, there are fire and ice birds that spawn, but they don't drop any rocks, so you don't have to worry about them messing up RNG. So then, that is all of 6-3. Similar strat as we've seen before, just sort of beat it as quickly as possible. And if you've done that correctly, this right here will be your picnic layout. The end of 6-3. Now, only 2 more levels left. Congratulations on making it all the way here. But basically, Miracle Matter. This is one of the huge benefits of the manip. First 2 phases will be Cutter and then Spark, which we can take out with a lightsaber that we already have. Strat, once again, kill Cutter ASAP, because I believe it continually advances RNG as it exists. Spark will advance RNG each time it shoots, so take it out after 2 shots. So there's 1. There was barely a second shot. I almost killed it too quickly. But basically for Spark, you want to get the first hit on the left side and then the second 2 hits on the right side. And again, make sure it shoots at least twice. After that, you'll get Rock. What you want to do there is throw away your power and stand still to advance RNG twice, and then take out Rock like normal. Kind of messed it up there, but saved it. For some reason, I just can't do Rock in runs. I have no idea why. After Rock will be Bomb, which you want to advance RNG 7 times total before and during Bomb. So basically, after defeating Rock, you want to run to the left side over here, stand still to advance it once, and then duck or inhale, rather. I think inhaling is actually faster. So quick inhale and then stand still 6 times. Like right here, you'll see I just quickly tap the inhale button and stand still. You'll do that 6 times after standing still after moving into place. So let me count them up. So there was 1 for standing still. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I had to move to get out of the way. But there's 7. I stood still. And then another key thing about Bomb is that you do not want to absorb any of the bomb pellets. You just want to spit them. Because that will help you. I believe the thinking there is that it will help you defeat it as quickly as possible. And I think it's something with like each of these pellets advances RNG by existing or something like that. I believe one of those is the reason why, but basically, if you've done it properly, it'll be easy enough to do anyway. You'll get 2 bombs here, or 2 pellets here that you can absorb for your first attack, and then just absorb the one to the left for the second attack. But since it is 1, you do have to time it properly, because it will break on contact if bomb is still going through iframes. So that's Bomb, and then for Needle, once again, and this is actually where I mess up Manip. Like, technically, I didn't carry it through the whole run. I messed it up right here and kind of lost it. But what you want to do after bomb is move to the right side of the screen here, stand still to advance RNG once, and then after that one time, advance it 5 more times for a total of 6 advancements. So right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the mistake I made, the reason why I lost Manip, is because at the end of Needle, I threw away my power right there, which messed up the following fire. So I had done it right, I just needed to spit out that needle. But normally, what will happen if you don't spit out the needle is that fire will start right in the middle, and right away it will shoot up and down. So it won't, move diagonally and force a 2-phase fire. You'll be able to defeat it in 1 phase and then move on to ice. But again, for my run, I didn't actually do it properly, so fire ended up being 2 cycle. But yeah, basically, I guess the thing to note is if you get the correct fire where it shoots up and down immediately, you would just take it out like normal, nothing too crazy. And then after that fire, after you finish it, you want to make sure, like I did there, you want to spit out the firepower that you may or may not have absorbed. Don't throw any powers away, because that will advance RNG unnecessarily. So finish fire, then you do ice like normal. Either get a double or a single ice, no matter which way is fine. I think, yeah, so right there, again, another mistake that I made was throwing the power for the final hit against ice. You're not going to want to do that. You're going to want to either use the power to get the final hit, or spit out the star in order to get the final hit. Because you don't want to advance RNG at all during fire or ice. So that's a couple places where I made mistakes, but just keep that in mind.
1 more level.
And then at this point, you're pretty much good to go with Manip. However, there are a couple things to keep in mind with 0-2. It's essentially another defeat him ASAP situation. That's the best way to describe it. Basically, do the first part of this level normally, whether you have fire or not. And then for 0-2, the things to keep in mind are: don't take damage or miss any shots when shooting the eyeball. And then, once you break the halo, shoot 9 sets of 4 shots into the spike. And then do 1 cycle. And you're basically done. So right here, I came in on the wrong value, and I did end up taking damage and missing shots, but I still was able to get 1 cycle. So the reason I said after Miracle Matter you're basically done is because while there are some instances where getting 1 cycle on 0-2 is actually impossible, like either he flips over too late and the halo respawns to block you hitting the band-aid again, or something like that happens. Those instances can happen, but most of the time you will still be able to get 1 cycle. So like right here, I was able to do it. So the key things about Manip is basically just carrying it through Miracle Matter. Once you're there, you should generally be good to go. And that is the 100% Manip for Kirby 64. That's pretty much everything that I have to offer. There as I mentioned a couple times, there's probably something that I missed somewhere along the line or something I messed up. But, you know, generally that's how it's done. And another thing, I will be at some point uploading text document of notes to speedrun.com that's cleaned up and much more detailed and hopefully accurate. It will be editable, so if there are things on it that I do mess up, I could fix them later. But I will also be uploading the picnic spreadsheet that has all the picnic layouts for all the levels and all the different picnic layouts that you can get. So keep a lookout for those, and I'll put links to them in the description of the video on YouTube below. And yeah, hopefully this makes it a little less intimidating for new runners to pick it up. Speaking of which, the whole new runners thing I just said, I would not recommend this to a beginner. Not at all. This is only for advanced players that have been playing for quite a while, or, you know, once you have all the fundamentals down, then I would recommend picking up Manip. Because otherwise, it's just one extra thing to worry about when you're trying to just get good with the fundamentals of the game. So yeah, if you're a brand new player, don't attempt this. If you're a long-time player, consider giving it a shot. I think you might be surprised with how much you actually do enjoy doing it. Anyway, that's it for the Manip explanation. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like and share and comment and all that wonderful stuff. And ask any questions you might have in the comment section below as well. And I will see you later. Thanks for watching.